Is there a spinny thing? Oh, there's no spinny thing anymore. What happened to the spinny thing? I used to get there was the spinny thing, and then boom, we're live. It's just like boom, we're live now. What's up, wrestling fans?
StreamYard got rid of that feature just because it was distracting you too much, is what
Man,
I think that.
this is even more distracting because there's no spinny, there's no warning. It's just like Doug, we're live, and I'm like, oh, we're live because it says live up in the corner, and there's no more spinny thing. Anyway.
We are very much live. It is the Two Bros Wrestling Show coming at you live, talking about Collision is our main event topic tonight. And Doug, we're a month into this experiment now, so we're going to, I think that's enough time for us to make snap judgments, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we are internet wrestling personalities, so that's what we do anyway.
Join us in our discussion here in about 10 minutes or so that we, get your thoughts on the matter too. We're going to look at what's working, what's not working for us, and what we think can still be fixable. So we want your opinions on that as well. As always, we're going to end with our big finish where we'll tell you what matches you need to see and performances that highlighted our week. But before we do any of that, I didn't hear it.
Is there something wrong with my headphones? Ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. Let's try that. Yeah, it was there, but for some reason I could not get it to vocalize. But opening bell time, let's talk a little bit of news. Let's talk attack angles that maybe weren't so much an angle.
Not so much an angle, right? Those Tijuana folks, they get a little rowdy, don't they?
In the middle of an angle, Triple Mania, as a press conference, Don Callis was legitimately attacked by a fan during a kayfabe attack angle. So the segment was furthering the AEW feud that's going on right now between Kenny Omega and Konosuke Takeshita. And Callis got some stomps in. Oh, I thought, I could slaughter that one.
Oh, yeah.
Badly. Yeah. That one's a dangerous one if you get that one wrong.
And that'll just take it right off of YouTube and Facebook if we get that one wrong.
That's right.
But Callis gets attacked.
Yeah, legit. I mean, Callis gets a few kicks in, and apparently there was a fan who didn't care for what Don had said to Kenny and jumped him from behind, ripped his suit, reportedly concussed his eardrum, busted open his mouth. They pulled the fan off of him. Reportedly, Don Callis was livid afterwards, and he was actually taken back to San Diego for medical attention. Supposedly, he's got a hurt ankle and neck. What the severity is, not quite sure yet. Hopefully, nothing overly serious, but definitely serious is some fan in Tijuana taking the betrayal of Don Callis on Kenny Omega a little too closely to heart.
Man, but Don has such great heel heat. You can't say he doesn't have great heel heat, man. Look.
Oh, he does, obviously.
I guess if he's okay, but
yeah, if his neck wasn't hurting so bad, he might take it as a compliment.
Exactly. Rest well, Don. We're praying for you.
We got all kinds of AEW content, not just in our main event and in our opening news story, Doug. You're going to love tonight's show because my next bit of news is also AEW related, and that is the great Ian Riccaboni. And I say great because I love Ian Riccaboni. He has signed a new multi-year contract with All Elite Wrestling. He has been the voice of ROH, obviously for years, but the AEW voice of ROH. And then, of course, last night he worked Collision and Battle of the Belts as well. And if you're wondering why that was, it's because Kevin Kelly is in Japan covering New Japan Pro Wrestling's G1 tournament. So he's probably going to be filled in for a while now while that is going by Ian Riccaboni. I imagine Riccaboni will also be handling any duties that normally would involve Kevin Kelly for at least some time. I don't think it's a permanent thing, but because I don't think he wants it. So it was interesting to find out that apparently Ian Riccaboni was initially offered the Collision job and didn't want to do it full time for family reasons, and was the one who actually recommended Kevin Kelly, which I thought was interesting. So, hey, good for everyone involved here. I like both Riccaboni and Kevin Kelly, and
Absolutely.
more for everyone. So, and good to know that Riccaboni will be sticking around at least for the RH brand for some time to come.
Absolutely.
Thought this was a bit of interesting news, Doug, to cover, but none other than Stone Cold himself is rumored to be returning to SmackDown shortly to begin working a program with Grayson Waller. This isn't necessarily like the KO kind of thing where it's, a match is expected out of this. Probably something more along the lines with an episode of the Grayson Waller effect. Potentially maybe a special episode that is saved for a premium live event, like the upcoming SummerSlam. We'll have to see how it plays out. In his short time on the roster, though, Waller has already worked with AJ Styles, and then this past Wednesday, or not past Wednesday, I'm still thinking AEW. Last Friday on SmackDown, he worked with Edge, and those backstage are apparently really high on Waller. Obviously, getting booked into any sort of program with Stone Cold would show the same. Reportedly, the folks backstage actually see him as future main event material. That's the kind of confidence they have in this 33-year-old Aussie. So good for Grayson Waller. I'm a fan.
Wait. That dude is 33. He's 33. I thought he was like maybe 23.
I'm going to say. Whisper that, because as LA Knight has let it be known, if you look younger than you are, don't tell anyone your real age. It will hurt you in WWE.
It will totally hurt you. I mean, he's going to get sidelined soon now that you've said this out loud.
Actually, when I saw that, I thought the same thing at first, is that for someone who I look at as a hot up-and-comer, he was older than I expected. Most have made it by that point in time, but I liked him from the moment I saw him in NXT, so I hope that they do not hold his age against him. There's a ton of talent there. The character work and the in-ring work are both at a high level, so I hope that it continues with his rise.
Yes, indeed.
So, Doug, last week in our opening bell segment, you'll remember how we were talking about Malachi Black making his statements during a podcast about requesting to only be on Collision on Saturdays. Right. We talked about that rationale, and
it makes sense. It made sense to us. Yeah,
it made total sense to us that, of course, it's more special if you can only see us once a week. That may not be the only reason why he requested to be on Saturday night. So since he's made those comments, there's been other reports coming out about the real reasoning he gave behind the scenes for why he wanted to only be featured on Collision. And it's a pretty practical one. But Malachi's wishes to have a schedule that's compatible with his relationship. So
that's fair. Yeah,
that's absolutely fair, right? So his wife Zelina Vega, of course, wrestles for WWE and works house shows on weekends. So appearing on Collision would keep Black on a schedule that would have him working the same day she is, and hopefully, I imagine when if he's going to be home midweek, she's there as well. Totally makes sense as to why his request would be made. That's understandable.
What about the rest of the House of Black, Kevin?
Well,
I mean, well, I guess Buddy Murphy. Oh, he's not Buddy Murphy. Buddy Matthews has a very similar schedule with his significant other.
I mean, if you're going to be the leader of a faction, you got to look out for the others. So, what helps me helps Buddy Matthews as well.
I don't know about Brody King or his significant other, or wait, is it Julia Hart with somebody in AEW anyway?
She is. Yeah,
I don't know who, but I was thinking she's with somebody in AEW. So it works out for everybody except Brody King that we're not sure about, but we're sure it does because
Brody, if you're watching, please let us know your relationship status.
Drop something in the comments so we can clear this up.
To make sure you're okay and getting the time you need with your significant other.
We want all the kings and queen of the Black Throne to be, happy and healthy. Physically, mentally, relationship-wise, all of it.
That's a great transition into my next story, Doug, about someone who's healthy and happy and working that relationship from the other side of the fence, I guess, from her husband in WWE. I'm going to end actually with a series of congratulations in our news segment tonight. First, congrats to Trinity Fatu. Trinity famously walked out on WWE last year along with Sasha Banks. Trinity is all as made that bet on herself and is now the new Impact Women's World Champion. Oh, Trinity won that from the great Deonna Purrazzo this weekend at the Slammiversary event, and so I unfortunately did not see that match, but it will probably have to go out of my way to see that match because I love both of those women. Slammiversary there also saw the return to Impact of Eric Young.
Okay, wait. Just stop. Let's talk about Eric Young. Are you going to talk about how Eric Young has been like under contract with WWE since like November of last year?
He's what?
And had to request his own release and was granted his release.
Yeah. So Eric was one of those that, it was rumored he was being brought back at the time when Triple H was doing that with a lot of folks that had been gone under the previous administration. It was never made official. WWE never announced that. But yes, apparently he has been sitting home under a WWE contract. And the reason, Doug, and obviously you're familiar with this story, the reason apparently why he, one, wanted his release, and two, never actually appeared back on camera is that he began waiting things out when Vince McMahon came back to the company saying he could not and would not work for McMahon for personal reasons, as well as creative and moral reasons. But hey, good for EY, man.
Absolutely. That's what I was getting ready to say. Good for you, EY.
Who says no to Vince McMahon? Very few in the life of Vince McMahon has he ever been said no to. And yeah, there's more money obviously in WWE than there would be in Impact, but sticking to your values and not wanting to work for somebody, Impact was pretty good to EY. It was where he had his, his biggest success was in Impact. That's where he made his name. It's coming home for him and standing up for yourself at the same time. So good for him.
Absolutely. And, we got a Team Canada reunion there too with EY sliding in.
That's right. That's right. Congratulations also, while we're ending on the series, and congratulations to Jon Moxley. Doug, did you hear about Jon Moxley becoming a gold medalist?
I did not hear about this, Kevin. I missed this.
It's true. It's true.
Oh, it's damn true.
Maybe not an Olympic gold medalist, but still pretty freaking impressive for a guy who I do really believe is just like legitimately just loves violence. So
yes,
Jon Moxley apparently won the top prize at the recent NAGA. I don't know what that stands for. Cincinnati Grappling Championship. It's a jiu-jitsu tournament. Okay. He finished first. He was in the men's beginners 30-year-old and up division in the super heavyweight category, of course, and won the darn thing. So probably, made sure he got nice and bloodied up before accepting the gold.
Did he blade? I'm trying to see what NAGA stands for. Oh, these old man eyes can't see that. Hold on. It is the North American Grappling Association.
The North American Grappling Association, Cincinnati, where he is from and lives now with his wife, Renee, apparently entered a competition and won the beginners division. So congrats to Jon.
Kudos to Jon. So did he break out Death Jitsu?
I just picture him coming out to Wild Thing. I'm hoping that he came out to Wild Thing.
I do too. Throw a water bottle into the crowd because you can't do that in AEW anymore.
I mean, it's beginners too. So you're just like in your little your regional jiu-jitsu tournament, and suddenly like Jon Moxley shows up wanting to fight, probably bloody before he gets down to the
And you're standing there. First of all, Wild Thing hits,
Wild Things, but...
and then you're looking around, going, nah, and then he comes through the crowd.
Here it comes, man.
And you're like, oh, great.
I thought that was pretty impressive. The last congratulations we have, and then we'll close our opening bell segment, was with this, and that's congratulations to Trey Miguel and Ashley Dumois on their engagement. Miguel is currently under contract with Impact. A lot of Impact news tonight. And it's a promotion he's worked for since 2017. Those of you who only somewhat familiar with Impact are probably familiar with the Radicals group, one of the best tag teams of the late 20 teens, I would say. But Yeah, he's a two-time X Division champion, and meanwhile, Dubois has worked on the Indies, made appearances on Ring of Honor. I think she maybe did a few darks back in the day as well. I know she's been on NWA. So anyway, congratulations to Trey and to Ashley.
Congratulations, kids.
And with that,
all right,
it is main event time.
Let's do this.
5 weeks. Yesterday marked a month of AEW Collision. So how's it going thus far? There's a lot of different ways to look at it. There is both good and bad with AEW Collision. So definitely drop in the comments anything that we don't mention, anything you disagree with. And Doug and I may disagree on a few of these ourselves. Some of the best things, Doug, I want to start with something that kind of relates to a news item we had. And that is, I'm going to say, first off, unimpeachable to me, best things about Collision, Kevin Kelly, Nigel McGuinness.
Absolutely.
I was worried that when they announced this expansion, that it was going to look and sound the same. It mostly looks the same, but they wisely stayed away from, and no offense to Big Show or Mark Henry or any combination of folks who call their other shows. But Kelly and Nigel have bona fides, obviously, both with their time in New Japan and Ring of Honor and NXT. I mean, WWE. I mean, they just both have been around the business forever, and they have great chemistry together. And they weren't somebody they were only using, elsewhere and moving them over. So it's the first AEW episodic series to not utilize Excalibur in some fashion as well. And I love Excalibur as much as I know you do, Doug, but to have a two-man team, I feel that's what you have. You got your announcer, your color commentator.
Yeah. And McGuinness and McGuinness is great. He has just been great for so long. I remember him all the way back to what was he, like Nigel Wolf or something like that, back in his Impact days. And Desmond Wolf. Thank you. Yes, Desmond Wolf. Yeah. Yes, he transitioned to an out of ring talent, and I think he's just been great. And you've got a voice of Ring of Honor there. I think of right there. It's a great team. It really is.
I know Kevin Kelly had a start in WWE. I mean, that's where I should say he had to start there. I'm sure he started on the Indies or someplace, but my first exposure to him was, many, many years ago in WWE. But when I hear him, I instantly hear Glory Days of Ring of Honor or current New Japan. And both of those things make me happy as a wrestling fan.
Yes. Yes.
And actually, that would be a good jumping off to my next best thing. I don't know if it is the commentary, but it feels like maybe because Nigel and Kevin Kelly are so serious minded with Ring of Honor and New Japan, which were both more about the work than the sports entertainment, at least early on in the first month, Collision, to its credit, feels more of the wrestling show than it does the sports entertainment show.
It absolutely. I was thinking that, especially with the time that was devoted to the tag team match this past week. Just yesterday. What am I talking about this past week? That was just yesterday. Yeah. But it is definitely the wrestling show, because I was thinking about this. You have a lot more. I don't know. I don't know. It's marked. It's Saturday Night Mark TV is the way I'm feeling about it right now. You just like, I think early Dynamite was Wednesday Night Mark TV. It's kind of found its footing now, where it has a bit more of a balance to, now it has a larger audience, is trying to cater across the board. But I still feel that Collision, at least early on right now, it's that Saturday night, destination TV for marks.
And early on is the point here. We know we are making hot takes and judgments.
Absolutely.
Dynamite change. Collision will change.
It will.
But thus far, if you just look at the 5 episodes we've had, there have been some longer form matches. Not that Dynamite doesn't have those too, but we're barely a month in, and we've already had many memorable matches and even match of the year candidates already on Collision. So thus far, definitely seems like they've shifted more of the storylines and the high flying and the story advancement segments to Wednesdays. And maybe it is the seriousness of a two-man team that don't exactly kid around much and are pretty serious and are associated with serious wrestling products in the past, be it NXT, Ring of Honor, New Japan. But yeah, it's the wrestling show, man. The Mark show is a good way of putting it.
And don't you think too that the way the roster is stacked, it's built like a wrestling show, kind of like early on Dynamite too, because I mean you've got guys like FTR, you've got Bullet Club Gold. I mean, right there, you could build an entire production around those four dudes, really. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
You got Ricky Starks. I mean, even QT Marshall, who I think QT is injecting a bit of the sports entertainment, but just it's almost like a drop in this like giant mug of coffee. There's like a drop of sports entertainment in there with some of the stuff that QT's doing and his whole squad. But Powerhouse Hobbs, man.
So, I mean, that's actually on my list next as far as a positive. The best things about Collision is there are bigger roles for guys like FTR, Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs,
Right.
Miro, Andrade. These were people that were advertised in advance as being they never said exclusive, but they are the ones that are going to be associated with Collision the most. And thus far, if that was the promise, I have to say on that, they have delivered, at least with those particular talents, especially. They were in the press release, and to date, they have been some of the most widely featured guys. And a lot of those guys I just named were not regularly on your Wednesday nights.
If you think about it, say definitely Miro, Andrade, but even guys, I mean, who on Collision other than really the House of Black right now, Ricky Starks, consistently on Wednesday nights or maybe on Rampage, but we're getting to see them and we're getting to see them in really, really good things too, which is exciting.
So here's the thing about that. They're not saying anyone's exclusive. They're not calling any brand splits or anything like that yet, even though I feel like they should, but we'll get to that in a minute. But even if they didn't have wrestlers who were more associated with one show than the other, it's just a good thing for Tony's overstuffed roster to have more room to spread out. I mean, WWE, I know, is Big Brother, and you're not going to catch number one. You just need to do what you do well. Don't worry about what they're doing. But by way of comparison, WWE has, by my count, I think it was 7.5 hours of weekly in-ring programming, and that's when they don't have a premium live event week. AEW had 5-ish hours, but half of that was squash matches on YouTube, and then when they pivoted from that, half of that became behind a paywall for Ring of Honor. So when you're talking, you had 3 hours to play with, and the big boys were pushing 8. This expansion was just necessary for growth. You just can't get Powerhouse Hobbs over as a character if there's, he shows up once a month, which is, I mean, Miro didn't even show up that often.
Right.
And you just too big of a roster was a good problem to have by having that much talent. But this definitely gives you room to make these folks, as you say, featured in something that is meaningful and good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. I do have some downs when we get to the downs or the negatives, because I do have thoughts about the brand split, or because I think the brand split, even though it's soft, I don't think they need something soft. I think they need something more definitive to say these people are exclusive to this, these people are exclusive to that, where it seems that they went ahead and tried to establish that the very first night when Punk comes out with his little red bag of, ooh, what's in there? Something that nobody ever took from him. There is their championship belt. There it is. But, it looks like they dropped that just as quick because Punk doesn't come out with his little belt anymore or his little bag of mystery.
Yeah, and maybe it was some sort of dig at the elite, and so they took it from him. I don't.
So, you can't have that.
Someone opened up the bag and no, you can't say that.
No, dude. I mean, it's almost seemed like they were teasing with stuff like that. There needs to be a hard brand split, and none of that haha brand split like WWE has, because everybody knows I hate that crap. There should be a brand split if they're going to do a brand split. If you're not, hey, that's cool. WWE says they're doing one, but then what are the rules? And I don't want to get into that with AEW, and I'm ranting about the brand split. I'm an angry old man right now, yelling at the clouds about the brand split. Everybody take a drink every time I say brand split, okay? It's a new game we're playing tonight.
Well, go get your glasses refilled, because it's not the last time I'm going to bring it up. But before we go to that, I got a couple more good things to talk about.
Yes, get me back on track.
I'll give you time to rant, because we know how you like to rant. We got some fist shaking to do. I'll do it along with you. This one's a small thing, but it is something that I like. I like the way that the show comes on different than Dynamite. I like the variety of wrestlers and the quick cuts in the locker room, going person to person, establishing what they're going to be doing on that night's show.
Mm-hmm.
It's an old school wrestling technique. I remember they used it a lot back in the Saturday night main event days, when WWE had the NBC show that would occasionally take the place of Saturday Night Live. I just like that. Tonight, Ricky Starks, I'm going to,
mm-hmm.
Dynamite doesn't come on that way. So if you're trying to differentiate a Wednesday night from a Saturday night show by trying to make them feel differently, that's a small thing, but a good thing, that right from the get-go, what everyone is going to be doing on the show, and you don't have to do so much of the artificial, hey, well, tonight, why don't you do this? And let me see if I can get, Adam Pearce to rubber stamp that. And then they come back from a break and you're already got a ref in the ring or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I like this more natural, like there's a card and we're going to talk about it right up front.
That is very cool. And, let me jump back on the like train, and we'll yell about, brand splits later, but really the look of the show too. I mean, visuals, it's, visuals are the first thing you're going to see, but it's the show looking different visually helps a lot too. I mean, you've got your ramp and all that good fun stuff, but the lights are up, the house lights are up. It's not a dark show. And I don't mean like a show that's not being aired, but a darker show.
Well, except for those couple of weeks when we had like 1,200 people in the stands. So those are a little dark.
True. But I mean, it's much more like it's. I've said before that AEW reminds me of WCW when WCW was firing on all cylinders and doing everything right. I like the house lights being up like that, where Dynamite is naturally a darker show. They bring the house lights down a bit. I mean, it's not, you're not just shining a light on the ring, but the house lights are down. The house lights are up on these collision shows until they're like way up in Canada, where there's 3 people in the audience. But I like that, and I like just the subtle little things like the color schemes that differentiate it, even down to the ring ropes. It just looks different, but different, not too different to where it becomes alien, but different enough to say, oh yeah, it's still the same guys, but definitely a different show.
Another way that they differentiate, and this is actually the last of the on my I really like list, but small thing, but Elton John as the opening music is a fantastic use of money. I know that Tony Khan does not care to drop some money on some rights to use licensed songs as it was. It sets the stage very well. Maybe a little too well, might be too on the nose, but it feels big time.
Heavy-handed. Yeah, but
I mean, everybody knows the song. That Tony had to spend a lot to get an Elton John classic song, so it already makes the show feel like it's big and important.
It's big time. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right from the opening minutes, you have that feel to it. So I'm thinking that's a pretty good use of your money.
Yeah.
Doug, do you have anything else that is on some of the list of best things you'd like to call out that maybe we didn't talk about?
I think between your very thorough list and my little bit of ranting, I think that really covers most of I want to call them the ups, the good.
Yeah.
Does this mean we get to the bad now, or even the ugly? Even though I drifted into ugly with brand splits.
I think that we could suggest to the folks out there too that if you want to go even deeper into this subject, we're doing sort of a bookend episode because prior to Collision debuting in the middle of June, we did an entire show that is worth checking out, is in the archives, on why it was a good idea and the things we were worried about. This is the follow-up because some of what we were worried about did not come to pass, and yet some of what we were warning against, I'm still mentioning tonight as problems because, yep, we called it, right? It's easy to nitpick more than it is to compliment, but I do think there's enough strong positives that we got to that highly recommend Collision. I definitely would not say don't watch it, especially with the high quality of the matches. It kind of supersedes everything for me, is that work rate that they're putting out there, as well as how much I love that announce team. Worst things, though, I like Lexi as a backstage interviewer, but Russ just would have preferred to see someone new just to mirror the announced desk team also being new. She's great, but she's on all the other shows. This would have been a time to poach someone from WWE or someone from WWE's past that, like they did with Renee. It was a big deal when Renee shows up because everyone loved Renee, respected Renee. She's good at her job. You could have brought somebody, what was his name? Raul Manalo, or I don't know who, but you could have got somebody else other than the person who's already doing it for your other shows as well.
Yeah, that's a fair criticism. That's something that, really wouldn't click with me. And I'm glad you bring it up because that's something I don't want to say that just completely flies over my head, but it really does. I'm not thinking when I'm thinking wrestling show, and you're absolutely right. It should be a compliment to the announce booth.
Everything's new.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's honestly one of those things that I never even thought about because I'm more focused on, when I'm trying to dissect this and thinking about this show in particular, ours, not Collision, but our show about Collision, that we, in-ring talent, storylines, drama, because there's all of those things floating around and a potential powder keg. And who's to say that, we don't know. We're only five weeks in, but yeah, I agree that if they're going to bring in a new announced team, they need some new backstage people too, even though it really wasn't on my radar. I totally see the point.
I just thought that would be a good, nice opportunity to elevate someone or introduce someone. And while I mentioned in the good things that they had kept their promise on folks like obviously CM Punk. I'll get to that in a minute. But Powerhouse and Andrade, the folks in the press release, on the male side, they have delivered. On the female side, who is the female wrestler who is mainly on Collision? Not both shows. Like Thunder Rosa was who was in the press release, and Thunder Rosa does what now?
Yeah, what?
I know she occasionally does Spanish commentary, but I thought that she was trying to work her way back in the ring. They did some backstage segments with her, just like they did Miro and Andrade to tease.
Right.
Here's your Collision, folks. You wonder where these folks are. Tune in on Saturday nights. And true to the word, you've seen Andrade, you've seen Miro, no Thunder Rosa. So what's the deal there?
I don't know because that's a very valid criticism too, because it was sold to us that, she was making her, return, which implied a return to the ring, not just to the Spanish announce table.
And does it not in some ways reinforce the criticism that AEW has been hounded with since day one, in that they are under delivering in general for their female roster? I do think it is better than it was for the first year of AEW. I think the last couple of years on the backs of your Thunder Rosas and your Britt Bakers, and they've moved that needle. But I still think that unlike WWE, you're not as likely to think of the female performers being featured quite in the same stratosphere as your male performers, unfortunately. And I think that Collision would have been a chance to do that. And I think that they have made some, attempts with like the female side of the Owen Hart tournament and things like that. But There still needs to be a better focus on women's wrestling in AEW.
There absolutely does, and that's something I could rant about. But the tournament thing goes across AEW, and I ranted about it last week. So
I'm going to make
confused.
you rant on that again.
I'm just so confused about all that tournament, who's wrestling who for what. The women could definitely have better representation across all AEW shows. And this is a perfect opportunity if you're going to do even the soft brand split. There's more time, there's more hours in your week now to feature some more. And
yeah, and there were so many women performers who were showing me things on Dark and Dark Elevation that I just naturally presumed would find a home in Ring of Honor and now maybe on Collision. And
right.
to some extent, there's been one or two that broke through. Like I really feel like a Sky Blue or Willow Nightingale or like two success stories. But there were so many others that could have also come up as well. I could name 10 people on the female side of the NXT roster right now. Like that's how good the female roster is. They're waiting to break through to the main WWE roster, and yet half of the ladies I was watching on Dark and Elevation had no idea what became of them. They did not find a home in a broader, more robust female division. Outside of a few notable examples, and to their credit, and that they've had some star-making performances from a couple of those that I just mentioned, but it's been far and few between for certain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Owen Hart tournament. That's just going to lead me into this is something I want to rant about. It's not the tournament itself, but we were not promised. It was implied that there would be storylines specific to Collision. You're going to have to watch Collision because it's going to be different than Dynamite. And yes, if you're not watching Collision, you've missed some really great matches. But if you look at storylines, even the CM Punk based storylines have been centered around the Owen Hart tournament, and which of course has been on both Dynamite and Rampage. And like, I can't say that outside of maybe a couple of issues on the CM Punk side of things, the tag team tournament was across, but like, there's not anything where it's like, hey, this is only happening on Collision, and this was only happening on Dynamite. Even as bad as the brand split can be with WWE, they'll do the recap so you can see what happened on Monday night, but that happened on Monday night. Monday Night Raw usually contains a very lengthy bloodline segment that you're only going to see on Friday nights. So I think they could do a little better to make, I love it being the Mark Wrestling Show. Don't take that away.
No.
Make some storylines very specific to like, this is happening over on Collision. I need to be over there watching that and not have it floating back and forth so easily between the two programs.
So let me throw this out. It being like, what we're calling the Mark, the Saturday night destination TV for Marks. Do you think that has a lot more to do with the producer staff, the guys behind the scenes, the guys working the talent? Because you have folks like, I'm sure Punk has a very influential say backstage. FTR is working backstage too. The American Dragon, we've got calling the shots backstage too and helping out. Plus, you've got more folks like QT Marshall, which, I did mention his more sports entertainment side, in the on-air stuff. But
but he's also on Wednesday nights.
Well, that's very true. Very true.
Yeah.
So is it that the unintentional thing that's happening to Collision, you think, where they're doing something different, but the folks they have doing something different are so actually wrestling minded instead of sports entertainment minded that the show is unintentionally skewing that way?
So I don't know what the breakdown is, and I probably should, because I actually read just today about how they are wanting to divvy up producer duties to be primarily Wednesday or Friday or Saturday. Now that is what WWE did a long time ago. And if ever there was a different feel for which was the show that had the more long form matches, which was the show that had the more, goofy segments, or like there definitely was a time when they were adhering to the brand split where there was more of a personality difference between Raw and SmackDown. I do think that you are right. Whoever is producing the show is going to leave their own mark and flavor on that production. If you want to have two shows that feel very different, don't use the same producers and writers for both either. And that way, make it like they tried to do Raw and SmackDown back in the day, a competition in the not just with the boys and the women, but have it a competition of the writer rooms as well. Like my House of Black storyline's really popping, and it is only on Saturday nights, and you are only going to get that there. I definitely think that they could look into that, because I am not yet in 5 episodes seeing where a storyline is very specific to Collision. I mean, even Punk made an appearance on Dynamite.
Right.
It's
I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I really do wonder, and then looking at the talent, because we know that AEW is much more talent focused with creative, and while they can have their input, still Tony Khan is the Vince McMahon of this operation, and he's going to say whether it happens or it doesn't happen on TV. But I think he's much more willing to sit and listen to his talent and put something together with them. And there's no real writer's room. There are like ideas to bounce around, but there's not a team of AEW writers sitting together tearing up scripts at the last minute. So it could very well be that the talent they have assembled for Collision is unintentionally driving a Mark product right now,
and maybe the Mark product is winning out over the time for actual storylines, because we have matches that go an hour, which but you can still work storylines into that as well.
Oh, absolutely. You can, but do they have the people to do that?
That might be getting us into the things that we think we can fix, because I think the elements are there. That might have been something I should have saved for the things that we think are easily fixable. Because I'm about ready to transition to that. I do have one last thing I want to mention, because this one is a true tweener of a complaint and or compliment, depending on how you look at it. So truly, whether this is a positive or negative is going to depend on your point of view.
Oh, all right.
But Collision is definitely the CM Punk show.
Oh, yeah.
That was part of the pitch. But if you are of the mind that Punk has overstayed his welcome, then his inclusion either in or around every big happening on Collision is either what you are tuning in for or why you are not watching. And so I think that a divisive figure that he is, there's been 5 main events on Collision thus far. CM Punk's been in 4 of them, and he was at the desk on the mic for the 5th one, because that match was going to determine who he was going to wrestle. I will say that I don't believe in any of those 4 main events he was in that the match of the night was his match. I think it was stolen out from under him each time. But do you think that we can sustain a show so centered on CM Punk, especially with so many CM Punk haters out there? Doug, I cede the floor to you for your opinion on that.
Man, I think at once upon a time, there was no bigger mark for CM Punk than me. Yeah, I damn near cried when he made his debut on AEW. My position on Punk has soured over the months, really. I mean, setting and watching him do that press scrum live, after that all out pay-per-view, and just wondering what am I watching? And then when we saw AEW in Charleston, seeing him legit go into business for himself and not even think twice about it. We weren't at a house show. We were at a live Dynamite. He had a hot mic, and this wasn't, some pre-approved scripted nonsense about, the doofus son-in-law and all that. He goes into business for himself. And at that point, you kind of go, oh, I kind of maybe see what Vince McMahon sees in him, and it's why he says he'll never do business with Punk again. because he's just such a loose cannon. Now, Punk, for the most part, is behaving himself right now.
Right now. That's good. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But how long until something makes him mad? How long until somebody looks at him the wrong way? It's almost like a Vince McMahon thing. Oh, don't send these around Punk. He hates that. you know, and it is his show. You're right about that. He has the draw. He has that big name. I don't know if he can bring it like he once did, like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when he walked away from all this and took his ball and went home. To answer your question, taking a very long road there, I don't think Collision can continue to be the CM Punk show. It's got to be the Ricky Starks show, the Powerhouse Hobbs show. It's got to have new talent and build them and elevate them. Because I said last week, I was so disappointed that I was not able to come on here and say, you know what, my match of the night, CM Punk Joe 4. That was it. That was great. It was just like old school ROH. It wasn't, man.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
I mean, it was solid. It was a couple pros working together, but maybe CM Punk doesn't need to be the center of everything. That match would have worked really well on the undercard as a. Yep. I mean, I actually do like it as a main event. I guess I'm contradicting myself. I liked it as a main event just for the history, and they made it seem big by playing into that history. It's not reasonable at their ages to think that they're going to pull off what they pulled off together back in the Ring of Honor days. Right. So that is not on them per se. What is on them is the other 4 main events that CM Punk didn't need to be the center of, but was. Mm-hmm. I understand you advertised him. I was tuning in on that opening night, like most people, just to see what he said. And maybe it's because we're 5 weeks into this that storyline playing itself out has to put him near the top of the card. But I agree with you. He can't stay there. You can't make it a one-man show. You mentioned earlier that you're sure he has a lot of stroke backstage. That's probably true. That's not going to be sustainable either. Like you somehow managed to revamp the man enough to like make it palatable to put him back on television. He should just be happy to have a paycheck and a career at this point after what he pulled off last year. So maybe don't make him the center of everything moving forward. That long-term, you can't have it be the CM Punk show and hope that it doesn't just implode, because we're all kind of waiting for the CM Punk implosion, I think.
And really, that's where we are, because it seems like, old chick magnet Phil, has these issues, like legit issues, because he talks about, he talks about people who can't let go of things. And, and I'm like, hi, Pot, how you doing? But anyway, it's going to be an interesting year. It really is with this show. I think the show is off to a very strong start. There are things.
It is. There's no doubt.
Punk can't be in every segment. At least he's not. At least he's not in every segment.
No, but he is the center of the important segments, and they let you know that.
I'm going to ramble too much here, and this will play into my, my big finish, because I have some thoughts about Collision from this past weekend, yesterday. So.
Well, CM Punk, this is a transition for the things that I think we can fix. Whatever you think about CM Punk, and there are obviously people that think both ways about him, he is being miscast as a face. Now, I know they're leaning into it and letting the crowd react however it wishes to with Punk. Cheers in Chicago. The first show in Canada and then yesterday in Calgary were pretty loud boos. The one in between was kind of weird because he was getting cheered in like Regina or wherever. So those audiences are going to act differently with him, which is probably fine as long as you're getting a reaction, maybe a fine approach for Punk alone. But when you have him cast as a face and then you have him aligned with wrestlers that fans want to cheer, like FTR or Ricky Starks back when they started their before now their opponents, obviously. But still, you had him associated with this group of good guys who weren't getting cheered like good guys because people hated Punk so much that Punk trying to play the part of a face is definitely the wrong way to go. Just let him lean in and be the a-hole that he is, and he'll get the reaction you want.
And, going back to just the aesthetics, they've been hammering that they're in Canada. They have this Owen Hart, or 15 different Owen Hart tournaments going on from my count. And Punk always comes out in his pink and black. You're just forcing it, forcing it, forcing it.
Yeah.
It's almost
Yeah.
it's almost like WWE 4 or 5 years ago when they were forcing us Roman Reigns as a babyface. Yeah, I kind of feel like that's about the turn we're going to take with Punk now.
And unlike Roman, who the fans just didn't want to like, the fans pretty much have their mind made up on Punk here. You've either forgiven Phil or
Yeah.
you're dead to me, Phil. There's probably a few in between, but that's a very small margin for him to be playing the role of Owen Hart. Yay! Everybody cheer me. Face not really working.
Yeah.
You could fix that one pretty easily though, and that's one that they should. And this this leads me to something that I think is also fixable, and to me it's one of the biggest issues. We touched on it earlier. Brand split. Just give us a true brand split. Give us titles specific to each show that would guarantee you have two women's champs, you have two men championships, that you can make two very distinct shows where you know what champions are on what show, what's at stake on those shows, and what artists you're going to see paint that canvas for you in the middle of the ring. So true brand split.
True brand split. I want a true brand split, not a soft or like this fake. Oh no, we have a brand split, but people can come and go as that. If House of Black is Saturday night, I want to know I can only see House of Black on Saturday night. Same thing with Pepsi Phil, FTR. I'm not sure how they do that with there being one tag. I don't know. Maybe they create dual. Well, maybe you keep the trios, which knocks the House of Black out of it. But maybe you keep the trios on Wednesday nights, and you do a brand split, and you keep the tag team on Saturday nights. I don't know. I'm just spitballing because I would love a true brand split and a true brand split. None of the floating around nonsense.
A true brand split would allow for diversification as well. And again, this hits on something I don't want to harp on it more than I already have, but everything isn't based around CM Punk. A person who hates Punk or is just over him or might just tune out Collision entirely because, for better or worse, it is the CM Punk show. If it is his show on Saturday night, you don't have to, at least if you diversify it enough that he's not in the center of everything, you can skip him. It's not just like it's just CM Punk, CM Punk, CM Punk. Same for the brand split. Make these folks like, I know what I'm getting, and not just there's the CM Punk show and the not CM Punk show. We can do better than that. Also, something I think that we can do better than, Doug, and to me, this is another one of those big issues that we called back in our other show where we were worried about certain things regarding Collision. And this one, to me, has come to pass. It's the biggest issue that we called out right from the start, and that's Saturday nights. Despite the Elton John song, a different night would be preferred. Put Collision on Thursdays. I know it's opposite impact, but I don't think that's going to affect ratings nearly as bad as going on Saturday nights when you're going to be against sports and people being out. I know that Thursday or any other day of the week doesn't have the same Turner history as Saturday nights. No one's nostalgic for Thursday Night Thunder. I realize that.
There's that one dude out there, that one guy who is screaming in his scream right now.
Oh man, I love Thunder.
We see you, dude. We see you.
It's just a better play than Saturday nights. There's going to be a lot of preemptions coming up, and we've already seen something that we probably need to bring into discussion, and that is the ratings. 5 weeks worth. Obviously, the first one does a great number because everyone wanted to know what CM Punk had to say. But then there was a 816,000 or so night one, very, very much in line with what Dynamite was doing. And then the very next episode was down to 595, and then way down to 452. We got a bump last week. We'll see what last night's did, but overall, the ratings have shown that Saturday night's going to be a tougher sell, Doug. Do you think that it would do better on a different night?
Of course, it would do better on a different night. I mean, because it's like Kevin, when did you watch it? Because I watched it today. You know,
I watched this today.
I watched
Yeah.
it this afternoon. You know, and of course, you know, I'm maybe the exception instead of the rule because I watch most of wrestling, you know, on a delay. Usually, some it's DVR'd because there's just, you know, I just can't watch all the wrestling that there is out there when it's on. I struggle to watch everything that's on my DVR, but Saturday night is definitely a bad time slot for this. And if it wasn't such almost like more adult, I don't want to say it's like, you know, attitude era kind of stuff, but you know, it is more adult wrestling where there's not a lot of the focus on gimmicks and personalities. It is much more focused on the wrestlers. I don't know how many people who are actually home on a Saturday night to watch that or, you know, focused on that on a Saturday night. It's just a bad time.
Just a bad time. I think that there's a lot there that's working. You said it. It's been a good first month. It's hard to debate that overall it's been a very watchable show. There are lingering issues, though, that could make it an even better show. And I think primarily for me, if I had to rank them, Saturday night probably would be top of the list, and Brand Split would be right at number 2, and then the CM Punk problem would be the top 3 for me. They haven't kept the show. They've not made the show a disaster up to this point, but there are 3 things under Tony Khan's control that could take Collision to that next level that I think he wants it to be.
Yeah.
Doug, unless you have anything else.
I do not. My notes are on my phone right now, so I've got to go. Hold on. No, I'm ready for the big finish.
We're going big finish, and Doug, you're going to be happy because I've got an all 8. I didn't try to do a theme on Collision because of the main event, but as it just so happens, I almost have a honorable mention for each of these and things I wanted to say, and then today I watched Collision.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, hey, they are making newsworthy television because they're getting my attention for sure and distracting me from what I thought I was going to be talking about. Let's go watch of the week first, Doug.
Oh, Kevin, we are going to go to AEW. We are going to last night, which brings us back to a couple of things, really, because we've got the CM Punk problem, right? We've got, you know, making stars problems, and I don't know if it's ego or if there is a lengthier plan involved here, which if there is, you know, clearly we saw the start of that last night. But first of all, that's not how you make future stars. If you're going to let a young gun get a win over CM Punk, it's not by cheating, right? It's not by cheating. It's not by grabbing the ropes, rolling them up, you know, quick, you know, leverage 1, 2, 3, and it's done. No, you lay down like Jericho did for Action Andretti. That's how you make somebody. Everybody knows Andretti's name now because he beat Jericho. We thought it was going to be.
Do you think that this leans into that whole CM Punk being miscast as a face? Because not only did he cheat on his way out, he just grabs the trophy from Jushin Thunder Liger and basically just like cold shoulders him instead of, you know, playing the grateful, you know, young apprentice to legend there. So they obviously wanted Starks to come across heelish in that.
Exactly.
Is that Punk wanting to just love me so bad, or just I want to get under your skin, so I'm going to give you this? You know, you're going to have to like me because the other guy's going to be the one going heel in this,
right? Because the other guy's going to be the bad guy now. Because, you know, we're going to get probably a bigger program, but you know, we saw the seeds of that. But no, because like you're saying, yes, it is a miscast. You know, no,
miscast.
It was bad. That's what I'm calling out as my botch.
I'm totally for that. Actually, that's way more serious botch than what I have. Mine is AEW. I realize this one isn't Collision. I guess I could go Collision and maybe talk about Tony Khan in a cowboy hat, which is a great unnatural look if we want to go Collision botch. But my botch of the week, and this is a playful one because I'm actually not sure if it's a botch or I actually like it, but Haley Cameron's video and rap from Dynamite. I'm not so sure if it was so bad that it actually was good, or if it's just bad, yet somehow still better flow than the average Max Caster rap, because she actually wasn't too very bad. But something about that whole thing was just both hilarious and botchy at the same time. So that's what I'm calling
kind
it.
of like Plan 9 level kind of stuff. So,
Yeah,
okay.
it totally
Okay.
was. Totally was. And I'm sure it was intentional, and in that way it maybe worked. But I actually was impressed with how quick she was. I'm like, no, that actually was pretty good. Maybe I'm the one who's got the botch this week. But performer of the week, Doug.
So I'm gonna jump over to the other brand, and I'm going to the blue brand, for
Oh,
this
there we
one,
go.
because I'm gonna shout out, main event Jay Uso again, because Jay is consistent still. Consistent. Although I have to give an honorable mention because I love the MJF Adam Cole stuff that's going on right now. It is
Hey,
great.
buddy.
It is so good. So good.
Yeah, it
But
is.
I
Yeah,
have
it
to
is.
say, I'm on a really big bloodline high right now. The bloodline is there. This is still firing on all cylinders. So Jay kind of carrying SmackDown because he's one of two Usos there, and Solo is the bad guy. So it worked well this week. So shout out to main event Jay once again this week for me.
Man, they're racking those performer of the week trophies up from us for sure, and deserved. I was originally going to go with Becky Lynch and her mountain goats as shoulder pads on her jacket as just like an honorable mention, because I had to go honorable mention after what happened last night. I'm going to do the opposite of your botch, because I agree with you. For as bad as they messed up the finish to what should have been a defining moment for a face Ricky Starks, they nailed it on the female side. Willow Nightingale, is there any more joy in this world than watching Willow Nightingale get a win or do something good and be proud of herself? Or not? I mean, she's a good worker, because not only did she win in a great match and win the whole tournament of the women's bracket of the Owen Hart tournament, she did so by picking up career-making wins over Ruby Soho, Athena, and Nyla Rose. I think this is you've arrived a moment for Willow Nightingale, and that is very much appreciated by this mark and deserved for what I think could be someone you could build a women's division around in a way that hopefully helps raise all of the boats of the talent they have. The pieces are there, and I love the fact that Willow Nightingale now might be in the mix.
I love Willow Nightingale. I love that energy. Love everything that she brings as soon as she hits the stage, hits the ring. So I can't disagree with you there, man.
Now you better not disagree with me on this last one, because if you do, I'm going to call you a liar.
Tell me when I'm telling lies, Kevin. Before you go, because I think we're going to have the same one. I just want to say that I really wanted to just give an honorable mention to Kenny.
I got one too.
Kitty and Vikingo at Triple Mania, but I haven't. For journalistic integrity, I haven't seen the entire match yet, but what I've seen, oh my goodness.
That's true. That should be a caveat, because it might be so mind-blowing from what I have read. It might at least be in the same category. I originally was going to go with something way lower. I do want my honorable mention for a match that I did see on Tuesday that I thought needs calling out: Ilya Dragunov versus Braun Breaker. This was the best match of Braun Breaker's career. And I don't say that lightly, because we are very high on Braun Breaker on this show.
Yes,
did not understand why. But if there's that one nagging thing that occasionally comes up, is that even whether it's been Carmelo Hayes or guys that are good, that should make you look good, he's not had that defining match yet. He has now. But that it can only be second place or third place after we actually see Vikingo versus Kenny Omega. Because, Doug, I know you and I last week agreed that Bullet Club Gold and FTR were match of the week. But, Doug, I'm pretty sure those two teams looked at our show and said, hey, boys, hold our beers.
They sure did, Kevin. My goodness.
Was that not an incredible work of art? That was what I was referencing earlier when I said it's already had a match of the year candidate. Yes, that has to be remembered come December as one of the best matches of 2023.
I was so excited about calling that match out as match of the week. I wrote team match down in my notes. It says team, not tag team, but team match, because both those teams they just click, man, click, and those are four incredibly great. I mean, these are professional level elite, and I don't use that term lightly, but elite, athletes, elite wrestlers that totally understand their jobs. They get the assignment. They are so good at what they do individually and collectively. When you have all four of them just firing on all cylinders like they have been, man.
When you do 2 out of 3 falls, I always hate when that first fall happens in a way that would not happen if it had been a regular one match or one fall match. They didn't do that cheap trick. They was 20 minutes into it before the first fall happened, which would be probably what you would expect a normal match between these two teams to go. And then the second fall was incredible. And they upped that ampage going into that third and final fall. I thought they were going to go, okay, the full Broadway. We're so close to 60 minutes. And instead they gave us a clean win, win.
Yep.
And did not detract from Bullet Club Gold at all. That the ones that took the loss on that, everybody came out of that looking like a winner. If there's a quibble, it would go back to the things you can fix about AEW, because we're so committed to everything always being CM Punk. I know we have a tournament going on, but still, if the tag team division hasn't shown you the last 2 weeks, CM Punk, you don't need to be in the final segment every night. You can build main events around FTR and Bullet Club Gold, and you are going to be just fine.
Just fine.
If you didn't see it, I've watched it twice already and will probably catch it a third time. It was that good. Highly recommended for the Two Bros Wrestling. I mean, last week's match was unanimous between the two of us. Like, yeah, that was the match of the week. And yet this match makes that one look like, an appetizer. That's really how good this one was.
It really does. I mean, these four guys really are amazing in their understanding of their craft. I mean, and I think there are a lot of guys on the AEW roster like that, but when you put, I mean, it's like the Beatles, right? You got John, Paul, George, and Ringo of wrestling in the ring at the same time. Those four guys are the Beatles of wrestling. I'm making shirts now. I'm doing it.
If you haven't seen yesterday's Collision, yes, Doug just compared the not the main event, should have been the main event, but yeah. FTR, FTR versus Bullet Club Gold. That is the new Beatles of wrestling. That should make you want to watch it, if nothing else. Doug, it was a good week of wrestling, and obviously Collision is doing something right, because we couldn't stop talking about it even once we got off the topic of the main event and our big finish. Pretty well informed by the happenings of Collision. It's not the B show yet. It's not a throwaway show at all. You're missing it out.
It's definitely not Thursday Night Thunder.
It is not, though it would be better on Thursday nights, but I digress. Fans, thank you for sticking with us. Thanks for watching last week, by the way. If I didn't thank you for that up front, it was one of the most engaged shows we've had with an audience in a while, so appreciate that. Be sure to like and subscribe. Keep supporting us. Tune in next week, because next week our main event topic is going to be undervalued, overvalued. In the promoter's eyes, there's folks that are featured and there's folks that are, for whatever reason, overlooked. We're going to be calling out those that we think need to be higher on the card, and those that we wonder, why are you stuffing this person down our throats?
Yeah. Why? Don't stop Roman Reigns, people. Just stop it.
Fans, thanks.
See you
everybody.
Next Sunday. Go watch some wrestling. Good night.